It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in another edition of the Full Court Press. And it's Friday. We made it to the weekend. Congratulations.
It's nice. I've got one more, just a little thing to do. I got the show, got Logan game tonight, but I'm going to have a free weekend.
You got a free Saturday?
I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I don't get too many of those between like August and March.
I know some people have Monday off, so maybe you're looking ahead to a long weekend.
What's Monday again?
Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Do we get Monday off?
I'll be here.
Eric doesn't have a dream.
Oh, look, it's a great day. But would I rather take that day off or take a different day off that's closer to when like I'm adding another day for a holiday or a vacation?
I guess. I don't know. I don't really keep track.
Some people don't have that choice. You're off no matter what.
Yeah, no, I don't really keep track of I'm not even 100% sure some days I'll like feeling like this day is a holiday. It's like, is that actually a holiday? Like, am I getting holiday pay for that? I was thinking about that with New Year's Day. I was like, we weren't in, so I'm assuming I'm getting holiday pay for that day. But who knows? Maybe I just don't.
There's some holidays that this was not on the show prep sheet, by the way.
It is. It says holiday pay is topic for segment 1.
I mean, there's some holidays like Groundhog Day, or that's a made up one, but some all
holidays are made up.
Columbus Day, where people are like, no, we're not taking that day off.
But Indigenous Peoples Day now.
Well, it's a different name, but that's a federal holiday. Like the banks are closed. Everybody else is doing things.
Yeah, it's bank holidays.
Yeah.
I always remember the big holidays are the ones that the bus would stop because I used to drive the bus. Like those are the big holidays when the bus was out of service, and there's only like 6 of those. So,
yeah, Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving,
New Year's,
4th of July,
4th of July, and I think there's
maybe Memorial Day.
Yeah, I think
Labor Day.
They might even be going on some of those days. It's crazy.
There's a lot of activity with parades and other things going on in town.
They never go on Easter, but there's a different reason for that.
Yeah. Not a lot of people sitting around waiting for a bus ride on those days.
Well, they also don't go on Sundays.
Oh.
That's why the buses don't go on Sundays.
They don't go on Easter or
Easter is famous.
51 other there's Sundays.
Yeah, that's true. There's 52 days of the week I can guarantee they're not. Or 52 days of the year I can guarantee they're not driving.
Hey, a lot of different things we want to get through here on the show today. It's a changing landscape for college athletics as it seems to change all the time. There's been so much more change just in the last few years than we've seen in the last 20. And more change down the pipe yesterday and today. It's just this name, image, likeness era is caused a lot of disruption and a lot of change, and we're not done. So the Department of Education is weighed in, and now the Department of Justice is weighing in a little bit on some of this. So just within the last 24 hours.
Well, even within the last hour, Ross Dellinger has been a busy man. Where he's done a lot of excellent reporting.
Good stuff on Yahoo Sports.
We basically steal all of his stuff and bring it on the show. We might as well just call ourselves a Ross Dellinger affiliate because of a lot of the reporting he does on a lot of these national issues. And less than an hour ago, there's a whole thing about a Wisconsin player leaving, didn't enter the transfer portal, just up and unenrolled, and is now enrolled in a different school. Just skipping the transfer portal. And the NCAA kind of coming back and saying, we can't do anything about that. So it's just and it's just getting worse and worse. And we keep thinking we're coming up with Band-Aid solutions. And mind you, there is good news. There are good changes we'll talk about in a minute here, things where they're trying to, improve the sport, but it's like, that'll rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. It's like, yeah, it looks better now, but the whole ship is sinking.
It's still going down.
The whole mode of college football is just collapsing. Or I shouldn't say it's collapsing, because the sport itself is going to survive. Like, it's not like it's going to go away, but the stability, the health of the league, the enjoyment of the fans, like, those are the things that we're putting at risk. People are dumping in more money than ever into college sports, but it's a bubble that could eventually burst if this kind of stuff doesn't get solved. And we're just dealing with more and more chaos to the point where the NCAA keeps trying to come up with rules, and then people just ignore those rules.
Yeah, well, the NCAA has had opportunity to get their arms around this, and then they've kind of sat on their hands and let other stuff happen. And then they try to get involved, and it doesn't stick, and it doesn't make sense. And so everybody else is like raising their hands like, we need Congress. We need an act of the president to do something.
They keep crying into the dark of night as loud as they can. Please, Congress, the most incompetent group of people on this side of the Atlantic, please save us.
And so here we are. Federal government is stepping in, and now everyone's like, well, wait a minute. I don't know if I like this.
Yeah.
So here's the latest. The stuff that came down yesterday was that the Department of Education, their Office of Civil Rights, issued a statement. It isn't necessarily a ruling. And so there's some gray area, just like how definitive this is, what its enforcement of this is. But it basically kind of opens the door to suggest there's going to be some real problems if you follow along this line. So there's this House versus NCAA settlement that's supposed to start kicking in this summer, where schools do a revenue share with their athletes. And part of that is roster caps and a few other things. And there's only so much money that they can share with their athletes. And we've started to see some schools publish their plans. Like Texas A&M has made it very clear of the $20 million that we're going to get to share with our student athletes, 75% of that is going to football. Like almost 20% is going to men's basketball, and the rest kind of gets divvied out in a few other places. There's some sports that won't get anything. In fact, majority of sports won't get a dime of this revenue share. And other schools and other conferences are kind of loosely following similar notions that the lion's share of this revenue distribution is going to go to football and men's basketball. And so this Department of Education comes out, their Office of Civil Rights, and says, the big Dikembe Mutombo finger wag, no. There, you could be violating Title IX. If there's any revenue sharing that's going on, this is just like any other, what's the term? Basically, money that's coming out of the school, like for scholarships and things like that. This violates Title IX. And so you're subject to lawsuits unless you distribute it evenly across all men's and women's sports. Yeah, across all of their athletes.
Yeah, basically the same equality that generally has to be around the sports anyway, from scholarships to locker rooms to different things like that. That's all stuff that is supposed to be relatively equal, kind of within reason. Obviously, it's not like the women's teams and all the other sports get as fancy locker rooms as like the football teams. But yeah, this is just kind of adding another layer to it. Although, interestingly enough, like I was thinking that, revenue sharing was going to be the death of NIL collectives. The statements say that, well, we don't care about NIL collectives because that's not on us.
Right.
Or, because with Title IX, that's applying to what you do if you are obviously a university or state-sponsored, often federally funded to some degree. And obviously laws regarding those institutions, they have to follow that. But third-party organizations like collectives, Title IX don't apply to them.
No.
So collectives, I guess, are alive and well.
Well, some schools were starting to fold up their collectives.
Yeah, because
they were folding up the tent because it was all being done in-house.
Yeah.
The university was going to handle all of that. But now this Department of Education, financial assistance is the term I was looking for. They've determined that any revenue distribution is financial assistance. And it has to be proportionate. You can't discriminate who gets some and who doesn't.
Yeah, like you could have technically maybe more for football because there's more football players, but like you couldn't do like the 90%.
You couldn't exclude women's tennis.
Yeah. You'd have to give them what they would proportionally get based on, number of players and yada, yada, yada. And presumably roughly equal between men's and women's sports, I think. I had a hard time parsing through all the documents. I tried to read the document. It was, I don't know, it wasn't clicking for me. So,
well, Ross did find a few segments that are worth sharing, and one of them here is from this. We call it guidance that they're giving. Schools remain responsible for ensuring that they're offering equal athletic opportunities in their athletic programs, including in the NIL context. A school may violate Title IX if the school fails to provide equivalent benefits, opportunities, and treatment in the components of the school's athletic program that relate to NIL activities.
Yeah, so that's a wrench in the plans of a lot of teams. Now, granted, a lot of this stuff is happening right before we're about to have a big old transfer of power in the political sphere. So, old administrations are getting in the last few things.
Hold your horses on this. Currently, I mean, it may be this way for a little bit, but a high likelihood that it'll get changed or altered before it is set to officially start to take effect, which is in July.
Yeah, it just depends on, new administration. And also which, lobbyists get involved in priorities and all that. But I'm not going to get into politics because that's not what we do on this show.
Yeah, well, but it certainly...
But it's going to have an impact.
It's having an impact.
Politics are having an impact on sports, so we got to.
There's already been a number of high-profile legislators, senators saying, this doesn't make sense. This needs to be adjusted. Well, also, they're disagreeing with this Department of Education ruling, or not ruling, guidance. But there are legal scholars who are saying, backing this up, like you're going to open yourself up to lawsuits if you don't do this proportionately, and you may lose your Title IX status. Yeah,
there's lawsuits, things like that, and it depends on what happens when you go up to courts and different things like that. But I don't know. The lawmakers' issues that I'm most intrigued with is what the Ohio State Legislature will be doing about flag planting at Buckeye Stadium.
Right. Yes, things that really matter in our society. So it's continuing. A continually moving target as there was this NCAA meeting. A lot of athletic directors, school presidents were at this big meeting earlier this week discussing a variety of different topics. And near the end, they're like wrapping up. They're literally in the closing session. They're literally wrapping up. And this gets dropped, and everybody's like reacting in real time, trying to figure out, well, what do we do next? How does this continue to affect us? And all those things we just talked about in our meetings could be meaningless tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's like you may have to call another meeting. But like there were things that they're going through that they're trying to implement in, across different sports, trying to fine tune the process that we've been going through. Work through some minor issues, different proposals they've had, such as you play 5 seasons and you get 5 years to do it. There's that model that's being proposed. I don't think that's passed, but it's something that's being considered.
It's being discussed. You're right.
It's because they're, I guess, worried about, how often, waivers are happening and dealing with that. Somebody's waiver gets denied, then they get mad and they sue. And you also got the whole thing with junior colleges, and then you got just red shirts in general.
You got situations now where you can have somebody in a college sport for 8 years.
Yeah.
I mean, are there limits to any of this? I mean,
yeah. And you also got players quitting halfway through a season or partway through a season and using their red shirt, using it as a weapon, essentially, against a team. I'm going to just red shirt and quit and use that. as means to, transfer and whatnot, and kind of get out of a decision they made to go to a certain team, so they can basically have a do-over. So I think that obviously it's you don't like losing something like a medical red shirt, but hey, 5 years, play 5 seasons, you just automatically get one more season, which is a nice trade-off. You don't get any extra, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th season, but you get 5. But that's what you get. No do-overs, no nothing. If there's a harsh reality, you tear your ACL in 3 of those years, I'm sorry. God hates you, apparently. Take that up with him.
Yeah, no medical red shirts. No, I mean, you don't have any sit a year when you transfer anymore anyway.
Yeah.
But
of course, that ends up like maybe impacting another thing that just came out today, because the rule changes just don't stop coming. Today. We're full of NCAA changes and rulings and different stuff that's happening that's going to impact the long-term health of the NCAA. But they passed this today, or at least that's they're saying that it's going to take effect in the August 2026, where red shirts. So basically, the red shirt rule for football, where you get to play 4 games, and you can still redshirt. They're basically going to have that same policy for all other sports now. It's 30% of the games, whatever that calculation comes out to. So for college basketball, it's basically 10, give or take. More give, maybe 10 or 11. Because you play like 32, 33 games or something like that.
yeah,
But like if you're going to 11 out of like 32 or 33, you're pushing more than 30%. So it's likely just 10 games.
yeah. So, right. So, does one affect the other? 5 and 5.
Yes, that's the thing. If you're going
30%,
if you're going to
count against.
if you're going to 5 and 5, it's like, and there's no red shirts, then like,
Yeah, then what's the point of the other?
yeah,
one?
what's the point of the red shirt rule? Because you don't get that anymore. It's just you got to play. So I think that's. I think for now, like I think it's good to have that rule in there, because we're not 100% sure that the 5 years, new proposal is actually going to stick. I have a feeling it will, but for now, this change of allowing other sports to have this play some games and still be able to preserve a red shirt, I think that's something that was overdue for a lot of different sports.
Yeah, I really like it. I think it's tricky in the modern era now. You start to play somebody, develop them, and then sit them and provide tape for everybody else to see what they can do and get poached. Or you still, this is a good opportunity to expose them to this level, really get a feel for, are they ready? And if they're not, then you can sit them and it doesn't count against their eligibility, then you still have more to go. Like Boise State, they pulled the red shirt off of Peanut, can't remember his last name, but there's a player on their roster, was a true freshman, and in the game before they played Utah State, he entered the game for the first time all season, and now they're committed. He is now going to be a freshman, even though he's missed half of the season already. The second he walked on the court and checked in, his red shirt eligibility is gone. But if you were to mingle them in here and there, you only have like 10 games or whatever it is, then it doesn't count against them. I actually really like that. It's a chance for you to see what your players are like, give them exposure so that they can see what they need to do personally to continue to improve. Because one thing in practice, how you perform in practice can be very different from real game experience, and get that game experience without counting against their eligibility. I like that.
Yeah, well, imagine a way it could maybe help the Aggies recently. Like right now, Pavle Stosic, he's redshirting. He's the only player who's redshirting, at least that's healthy. I think Braden Housley's on a medical, or they're going to try and get a medical redshirt for him because he's got an injury. But Stosic, yeah, he's redshirting. But hey, they certainly could have used another big body against UNLV the other day.
Yes.
And he likely would have probably played in some of those early games, kind of like Isaac Davis, where you probably would have seen Stosic in a handful of games where they could get a chance to develop him a little bit. 5 minutes here, 2 minutes there, in some of those games they're winning like 100 to 50. they could have had him in there. And hey, if you need him for an emergency, like if Isaac Davis had been healthy, even though he's not really in the rotation, he's there for a lot of times garbage minutes, or if you really need something like somebody's in foul trouble, you can put him in. Like Stosic and Davis could both be in that situation, and in the end, probably only play about 10 games. But hey, you could hard cap it there and say, all right, that could be something in a coach's back pocket if they really need it, especially with college basketball the way it is. How much foul trouble actually ends up playing a factor in these games. Yeah,
or a certain stretch of the season, you got one of your guys that has a serious injury and he's going to be out for a while, depletes your roster. And then it gives you somebody else you can plug in, and it doesn't necessarily hurt you to the same degree as you might just be, well, I guess we're just down a guy.
Yeah, or if,
I guess everybody else has to pick up the slack.
Yeah, or even if a guy's out for just like 2 weeks. Like, say Carson Templin rolled his ankle and he's got to miss 2 weeks. Stosic could step in, like in that kind of situation. He wouldn't have to play most of the season, but he could play like 4 or 5 games, and then Templin comes back in. You could just have somebody step in, be that replacement, but still preserve a red shirt. So it's and this goes for so many different sports. Like I think of Utah State soccer, volleyball, where redshirting players is just so hard because like you're just going to set them out for an entire year and they just can't do anything. Especially when those teams play so deep and you've got so many young players on the team, like a lot of freshmen and whatnot. Like your options are they either they got to be ready to play right now and basically be a rotation player the entire year, or you don't get them at all and you just have to sit them. Like that's too much of an extreme for the vast majority of college sports. Either your freshman is ready to be a contributor now, or they don't get to play at all.
Right. They got to sit a full year without.
Yeah, because otherwise it's like a waste to have them. Because you have certain archetypes of player where it's like you're a DNP coach's decision for like half of the games. So you're just in the back end of the rotation. But like it's worth burning a year of eligibility to play you 10 games. But those 10 games can be worth developing. Again, that's why this kind of rule really helps, because now they can finally do that. Put them in the game for a little bit and not have to do this advanced calculus of, is it worth it to take off a year of this player's career just so they can play 5 minutes on the pitch in an otherwise meaningless game.
435-339-0321. Your thoughts and reactions to some of these rules changes and guidance, we'll call it, from the Department of Education.
They're more like guidelines than actual rules.
Or any other quotes from Pirates of the Caribbean. 435-339-0321.
Happy New Year. You survived the holidays. This is Jarek at Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Did you meet the family during the holidays? How was that? Is it time to go engagement ring shopping? Valentine's Day is coming, but why wait? Do it now. Bring her in and view our collection of over 3,000 rings. With many of them being our own custom designs, I know we will find the perfect one. At Jarek's Fine Jewelry, we make it special. So come make it Jarek.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special. Make it Jarek's.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
Now here's a concept. You earmark 1/3 of your profits to go back into the community, to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Anthony Wagoner, and I'd like to share with you what I know about Dex, the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Join us in creating the brightest image for tomorrow. Contact us at deximaging.com.
Interviews, analysis, and a little bit of fun mixed in. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. The federal government getting involved in the last 24 hours on a couple of different fronts. Department of Education issuing guidance that this revenue share model that some schools have been talking about could be illegal and could threaten the school's Title IX status and could subject them to lawsuits if it's not a proportionate share across all men's and women's sports. And then today, Department of Justice taking issue with the revenue share pool itself. And basically, in essence, this settlement, this House versus NCAA settlement, may not cure the ill effects of the illegal conduct in regards to name, image, likeness. It allows the NCAA basically to continue fixing the amount schools can pay for NIL.
Well, we already saw holes because the whole point was for it to replace NIL and basically have teams have contracts. Ideally it would kind of regulate, transfers because you could sign players to longer deals with revenue sharing and whatnot. It was kind of supposed to help fix the transfer portal and then eliminate some of the NIL pay for play stuff, or at least the illicit stuff. Because obviously the revenue sharing is a pay for play, but and you could kind of make a part of that, but it would feel a lot more above table in that sense, where it feels like everything going on with NIL is just shady and there's tampering, and revenue sharing was kind of supposed to be putting everything above board. The problem is, and this is where it just stays shady, is that now they were supposed to police NIL deals as a way to, circumvent paying players more. Like a donor says, well, you're getting a $200,000 revenue sharing deal because that's all we can afford based on the revenue sharing cap, but I'll give you an extra $2 million to come and play in an NIL deal. And they were supposed to be able to police that, but that has very shaky legal foundations. So yeah, they're really standing on thin ice with all of this.
Well, and it also kind of sets a cap in this revenue share to say you got $20 million you need to share with your athletes. And then it's not market-based. How does the school decide? Is it just equal? Do they give more money to certain players that they deem more important or more valuable to the team's success, to the university's brand? So, yeah, all kinds of things they still have to work through with this. Just when you think that you've got a framework to operate under, it keeps getting changed.
Yeah, because they don't have any legal basis. And this is why they keep crying to Congress and going and saying, please, Congress, come save me, mommy. Where they just want to be able to do whatever they want and not have any legal challenges. It's what they were able to do for 100 years or however long the NCAA was around with college sports. Wasn't it the 60s or something like that? Or I forget.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not going to get into a history lesson here. That's not the point. Because they just want to be able to say, back, they took away Reggie Bush's, I almost called him Reggie Lewis for some reason, Reggie Bush. Took away his Heisman and all these different things. They could do whatever they want and nobody could challenge them, and they didn't have to answer to anybody. It was their world and everybody else was just living in it. And they want some of that back. Mind you, they've kind of seeded, they say, okay, you can have NIL and you can have transfer portal, but we want to be able to put limits and we want to say this. The buzzword of last year was guardrails. We want guardrails. Okay, but that's just doing whatever you want and then not understanding the consequences of if you put NIL guardrails, okay, you're limiting people's earning potential and different things. And you're not allowed to do those kind of things under law because then you're dealing with monopolies and all this kind of stuff.
Right, because do the guardrails that work for Tennessee work for this in the same way for Middle Tennessee State?
Yeah, and is it moral to be able to say, moral or legal to say, well, you can only earn $500,000 in NIL. That's your cap. I mean, we live in a capitalist country. That doesn't sound very capitalist to me.
Yeah, who decides that?
Yeah, so it's just the NCAA just wants to be able to lay down a set of rules and say, we get to play God and you all have to listen to us. That's what they want. And that's what they're waiting for Congress to do, is for Congress to pass a law saying the NCAA gets to do what it wants. Shut up and let them do it. That ain't going to happen because, one, they'll throw it up to the Supreme Court and it'll get struck down because you can't have that. And so this is why I keep going back to those ugly 2 words that the NCAA hates and that keeps them up at night. But that's collective bargaining. Because we're trying all of these solutions. We're trying to find Band-Aid solutions so that college football can be kind of like it was 10 years ago, where it's like, it's the same old college football, but you got transfer portal, you got NIL, but it's the exact same. That's kind of what we're all pining for. But I'm sorry, it's gone. It's not coming back. It's like youth. It ain't coming back. None of us get to be 19 anymore. Unless you're 19 right now. In that case, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good luck on climate change. But, we can't go back to that. But everyone's trying to get back to that. They're saying, okay, what if we just do revenue sharing? Well, that's not working. You had a guy who signed a revenue sharing contract with Wisconsin, and then he left. Like he
wanted to leave.
Yeah. He has left.
Well, he has left. He wanted to leave, and then the school said, no, you signed a deal for this revenue thing, so we're going to keep you here. You signed a contract that you would get this revenue, so you have to stay here. But he didn't want to stay here. He changed his mind.
Now we'll see if he gets
And so he didn't enter the portal because the portal had closed. He said, fine, I'm just going to unenroll. I'm going to go where I want to go, and I'll enroll there. And I'm just going to move. Transfer portal? Psh, what's that?
Yeah.
That's not... You can't hold me to that.
The NCAA admitting, like, in a statement, saying, like, oh, well, we can't do anything about that. You can unenroll anywhere you want and re-enroll somewhere else. That's not our problem.
So it's like, what do we even have a transfer portal then?
So it's like everyone's just trying to say, like, this will be the next thing that fixes the latest problem that we've got. You're just playing whack-a-mole, though. You're just, a new problem pops up. Like, we introduced NIL. Then there were collectives and pay for play and tampering. Now we're trying to whack that. But now you try to introduce the transfer portal to allow players who really should be allowed to move schools. But then suddenly, literally everybody wants to move every single year. And now you're trying to find ways to get around that. And you got guys quitting on teams to use their red shirt and then transfer. So now you're trying to tackle that problem. Like, we're trying desperately to get back to what college sports was, but cat's out of the bag, Pandora's box is open, pick whatever metaphor you want. It ain't going back to that. You can only move forward with the drastic actions, like, to turn this into a professional sport. Nobody wants it to be a professional sport, at least that's the popular thing to say, although I don't know necessarily what the problem is.
I mean, you got guys earning 7 figures.
Yeah, they're basically professional athletes anyway, but there's this romantic idea around amateurism and things like that. Just let it be a professional or semi-professional. I don't know if you want to get picky about the words you use there, but it's a professional sport. These are adult men. I know they're young men, but they're adults. Let's go out there and let's actually create a system that works instead of just constantly coming up with a stream of Band-Aids and pretending that you're actually fixing these problems. Because you're not. Because like I said, the revenue sharing, like, that hasn't even started yet, or like it's kind of barely starting, and it's already falling apart.
Yeah. Like, I get, I mean, the NCAA has a purpose, right? It's, you set rules and guidelines to have some level of parity, in that we all agree that a football field is going to be 100 yards. We can all agree this is how you score points in this game, and these are the rules of how this game can be played. But beyond that, they've really lost their way. I mean, outside of just saying these are sports that are what we call sanctioned sports, and if you want to play it, and these different schools, these teams are going to play this game, so they're all on a level playing field. Its purpose is to create somewhat of a level playing field, but really all that it's being boiled down to is, can you really set the terms of what a sport is and what its rules are? Because you can't even decide how you decided or determined a champion for a lot of these sports. Most of them, yes. Football, they've abdicated that and given that to somebody else to decide.
I mean,
they've had opportunities to do it for a long, long time.
Has the NCAA actually ever determined a college football champion?
Not for the FBS or Division I.
Because
They've always left it to the Associated Press.
Yeah, the AP did it. Then it was the BCS. Now it's college football playoff and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they have everything else. Of course, isn't the NCAA tournament done by somebody else? Is that
no, that's the NCAA.
Okay.
That's where a lot of this revenue sharing is coming from, because they have determined we do own this, and this is ours.
Yeah.
And we have the media partnership with CBS and Turner or Warner or whatever, Warner Discovery. So we are earning money. And through this particular championship event, and through that money, that's how we're going to distribute this House versus NCAA revenue share.
Yeah. And the thing is like, keep in mind, like you talk about all the different issues that pop up. There are going to be others that I feel like can pop up, because the one that I've looked at that I feel like is going to be a long-term one, like somebody's going to sue about eligibility. Like you can't keep me from you can't keep me from playing more than 4 years. Like somebody already did it with JUCO. I don't know if this is a slippery slope. I don't want to try and get into fallacies, but like it feels like maybe that was a step toward, like somebody's eventually going to say like, my earning potential, you're hurting that by saying I can only play 4 years. Or maybe
why can't I play 6?
Yeah, why can't I do that? Why can't I play until I decide I want to hang it up? Because I have earning potential. And then like academic eligibility, like you can't stop me from playing because of academic eligibility, because it's hurting my earning potential. And like those are challenges that could end up being made. I don't know if those will stand as well, because like those are universally accepted by like literally everyone, and you won't get a whole lot.
As long as it's sponsored by an academic institution.
Yeah, you won't get a whole lot of public support for trying to bypass those two, stalwarts of what's been part of college sports forever. But it's something that could happen. Like, 9315 kind of texting and saying college sports will do just anything they want and nobody can stop them. So just like the kid you talked about moved to, he's talking about the Wisconsin guy, but it's like the players are going to do whatever they want. 9315 kind of on top of that, where they're going to do what they want. And somebody out there is going to push the boundaries. Somebody pushed the boundaries with the JUCO. Somebody's going to push the boundaries with like FCS, or I don't know. They're also
pushing the boundaries with the transfer portal today.
Yeah, they push the boundaries with the transfer portal. They're going to keep pushing the boundaries because everyone knows they're just made out of cardboard at this point. They used to be made out of stone and steel because you couldn't move them no matter what. Even the biggest stars couldn't move them. But now, random quarterback at Vanderbilt just knocked over the entire eligibility process with the JUCO ruling, completely upsetting the balance of college sports for like 2 or 3 years while we settle junior college eligibility and all that. So the boundaries are going to keep getting pushed. The NCAA is just going to keep losing. I mean, eventually they might find a line where they win out. Like maybe they win on academic eligibility and 4-year eligibility. Maybe they can win on those grounds. But the fact that I'm not sold that they can actually keep those things in place, like that they can still have those be part of college sports, like that kind of speaks to how broken this is. That I'm not sure even those, the most basic bare bones aspects of college sports, that you are a student athlete and that you only get to play 4 years. Minus redshirts and all the crazy stuff. I'm not even sure those are going to stick around. Like that's how broken we're getting, and it's why I keep saying, "Okay, we're not heading in the right. We're vaguely heading in the right direction of like professionalizing the sport, but you got to actually head to the right place because we're trying to have our cake of allowing these players to be professional athletes by getting all the money, but then we're trying to pretend that it's an amateur sport." And it's just not going to work.
It just doesn't jive. Not anymore.
You got to get away from it. You got to let go of the old notions. None of us want to. We all want to pretend that it's 2003 and it's, that college sports is a reverent, pastime of America, where it's amateur sports and it's pure and they're out there for the love of the game and they're all getting their degrees so that they can have success after football. It's like, no, that's not what it is. Billions of dollars industry. Let's actually act like
let's treat it that way. Yes. So interesting to see how that will continue. And really, these different government entities can issue opinions and guidance right now, but honestly, I don't know that anybody should get too worked up over it, because in a week, there's going to be a totally different administration for all of these organizations. And within a few weeks, we might start to see some of these with very different opinions about how this should work moving forward.
Yeah.
All right, we've got to take a time out here in the Full Court Press, though. If you want to weigh in, we always love to hear from you. 435-339-0321.
It's cold outside, but you can keep warm inside with a quality-built, super-efficient York furnace. Count on a furnace from York because it's backed by the strongest warranties available. It's just another way we install confidence. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, at 752-7272. Online at advancedheating-ac.com. York, install confidence.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
Hi, Cache Valley. This is Dan Newmeyer at Blue Sky Restoration, formerly ARS. Do you know what to do if you are experiencing water flooding inside your home? First, make sure everyone is safe, turn off the water, and call Blue Sky. Do you know where the water shutoff is at in your home? If you don't, call Blue Sky and we'll send out a representative for free to help you find it and tag it so you can be prepared if an emergency arises. Remember Blue Sky, restoring your property and your life for a brighter tomorrow.
S.E. Needham Jewelers is where Utah gets engaged. We offer a large selection of personalized service and extraordinary benefits with our integrity price guarantee. At match quality, you'll find our prices to be as low or lower than any store in the state. We consistently beat any 50 to 70% off sales, internet pricing, or so-called wholesale deals. In fact, we even price our diamonds at internet pricing. So you'll get S.E. Needham quality at internet prices. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7, where Utah gets engaged. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
A mouth-watering Cafe Sabor burrito, smothered in cheese and fresh guacamole with endless chips and salsa, plus your favorite drink, all for just $7.95. It's Locals Day at Cafe Sabor. Every Thursday, the drinks are bottomless, the chips and salsa are endless, and the burritos are amazing, all for just $7.95. There's nothing better. It's Cafe Sabor's way of saying thanks, Cache Valley. Don't miss Locals Day every Thursday at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station, 6th West and Center in Logan.
It's the Full Court Press, weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker. 435-339-0321. If you want to chime in, debating and discussing some of these latest guidance, if you will, from the U.S. Department of Education and the U.S. Department of Justice, as well as some other proposals being discussed that will affect college sports, not just football, not just basketball, but all sports. But getting the Full Court Press text line, 8968, college sports as we knew it are dead. I hate to say it, not only dead, but for a good share of fans, not fun anymore. Student athletes, in a lot of cases, is an oxymoron.
Yeah, so, and one thing that's kind of reminded me of, and I kind of thought of this right before I was reading this text as well, is when I talk about, and this is where I want to get to a positive end, because I was going on a rant about how college sports is dead, and it's not going to be like it was, where we romanticized college sports and this amateur model of sports. Like, it's not a bad thing if you end up going to a little professional model, because keep in mind, if you end up going to this professional model and you manage to kind of find some stability with all the roster movement and all these different things, like, do you actually end up losing the things that make college sports special? Because what makes college sports special? It's the communities. It's, just by every, half decent sized town in a lot of these different states have their own college with their athletic department. A lot of them, there's 134 FBS football teams. A bunch more FCS teams. And you look at basketball, there's like 360 of them all across America. Like I said, about every half decent sized town has one. And their love for the sport and for the team isn't based on the fact that they're amateur athletes. Nobody roots for their team because, oh, he's not getting paid. He's just going to class. Like, that's not why you root for him. You root for him because you love the team.
Yeah.
So, like, if you go to some kind of professional model, like, yeah, it's not the same amateur model. It's not all that same kind of stuff. It's not the university. Sometimes they may not even be student athletes anymore. But people will still love the team. And that's the thing I don't people don't understand about if you went to a collective bargaining type style. Like, you could have, every town has their team, and sure, they're professionals and they're getting paid and they have a players union and all that. But there'd be stability. You'd have players that you could have for 2, 3, 4 years minimum, as long as their contract is around. And you would have everything you wanted in the team, still the Magic, the NCAA tournament, college football playoff. You could still have all of these things. None of that has to go away. The things about the sport that we love don't have to go away.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And I think there have been some aspects of this NIL and transfer portal era that have been kind of equalizers, because there was a very strong era for the modern era up until this, where there were very resource-rich schools who were still buying a lot of their rosters, but they were doing it under the table. They're doing it illegally. There was a lot of shady stuff. There were a lot of bad actors. Now, this hasn't cleaned up and eliminated bad actors. They are still out there.
Yeah, there's
perhaps there's probably more, but there has been a little bit more of an equalization, spreading it around, where it's giving some institutions a little bit more of opportunity to compete with some other institutions at a different level now. And for the players themselves, man, it used to be if you committed to one school and turns out you didn't really like it there, turns out the coach or coaches that brought you there are real jerks and they're not going to treat you right, you were stuck. You had to live through that. And it could be really bad. And yeah, there's learning and opportunity there of figuring things out and working through challenges and then overcoming them. Those are great stories. But it gives players opportunities to say, hey, look, if this isn't working out for me, why should I stay? Why do I have to stay? Why can't I go find somewhere where either the education is going to be more what aligns with me, or my playing opportunities are going to be enhanced, or there's people that I like. So it gives them greater opportunity to fulfill what they have in mind for themselves too.
Yeah. Of course, the problem that we reach is that, and this is the case in every sport, but what the problem that you end up with is what's good for the player is often bad for the fan, unless what's good for the player is to play for the fan's team. Because then it's fine. But like when the players are looking out for themselves, they are not looking out for the interest of fans. So you have this really awkward divergence of interest between what the fans want and what the players want. And it's why you end up with leagues that have to have some kind of contracts. Because otherwise, like if it was free agency all the time everywhere, you just have players switching between teams. Like, heck, you go back far enough, you can find in sports, you have, players switching teams like after, a couple of days. They just go back and forth to whoever's paying them the most. And that's not good for the fans. It's not good for a league. So that's where this is all tricky, because you as a human being sympathizing with others, like you want others to have the freedom. You don't want to restrict that unless you're a terrible person.
Yeah.
But when you're a fan, you're also looking out for your own fan interests and your own team. And those are often contrary to player interests.
Yeah, they don't always align. And I feel for coaches anymore. You're constantly recruiting, constantly, either on the road or within your own locker room.
Yeah.
They're constantly recruiting. So that's why we have these massive coaching staffs anymore. They have to, just to keep their arms around what's going on with the sport.
Yeah, and you gotta have personal relationships, because that's something that can make or break a guy deciding to transfer. Because that's half the time. Like, sometimes it's like playing opportunities, but there's guys who are like starters for teams that are just quitting because, like, I guess they just don't like it here anymore, or they're not getting their way. But if you have those good personal relationships, like some of those, coaching staffs and personal relationships and selling guys on a vision, like That's what kept guys like Mason Falslev and Ian Martinez here. Like, they ain't staying here because they're, this is where they're getting paid the most. Ike Larson isn't here because this is who's paying him the most. It's a lot of other things.
Yeah, very true. All right, got to take a quick time out. We'll be right back. More of your texts as well, 435-339-0321.
Alpine Home Medical has been around for over 25 years. Can you believe that? Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent. What keeps us coming to work every day? We're passionate about caring for you. From home and bathroom safety to transportation, mobility, recovery, oxygen, sleep, and more, come into any of our 10 locations today and let us take care of you.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit us at alpinehomemedical.com.
This is Brent Wallace with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account, and if you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors, and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Les Olson IT structured cabling is second to none. Tired of old and inefficient cabling? Have an upgrade or remodel planned? Building a new network from the ground up? We offer the very best in low voltage cabling installation, including data, phone, fiber optic, and more. Ask us how to get your free consultation today.
Les Olson IT.
Breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Your locally owned Preston and Providence Napa Auto Parts supplies parts to over a dozen local Napa Auto Care centers. Places like Randy's Service Center in Richmond, Master Mechanic in Providence, Brent Allen Automotive in Logan. You can trust and count on their ASE certified mechanics for anything from oil changes to major repair. Take your vehicle to one of these Napa Auto Care centers. A couple of texts rolling through on the Full Court Press text line. 0366 texting in. How about one transfer per college career?
I mean, we had that, and that wasn't enough.
You had to sit out a year.
Well, and then you got like the one free transfer.
Well, yeah, if you were a graduate transfer, you could do that for free at any time.
Well, then it became eventually you got one free transfer anyway.
Oh, yes.
And then a second, but then that fell apart because everyone started suing. My whole thing, and I don't even know if I feel like this would work anymore. It was a thought I had like last year, 6 months ago, where if you're going to try and cling to this idea of it's finding a way to limit transfers, like specifically limit transfers, instead of doing things like contracts, where I'm more into, you should just focus on doing multi-year contracts with athletes as opposed to just trying to limit transfers. My thought was you get one free transfer before the beginning of your sophomore year. So either if you redshirted, you could transfer after redshirting. If you played as a true freshman, you could transfer after playing as a true freshman. Or if you redshirted, played as a redshirt freshman, you could still transfer. Basically, however you get to the point where you're about to begin your sophomore year, you can transfer before that. And then you get a free transfer for like a coach leaves or something like that. A couple of different potential exceptions. I didn't go super thorough about what would constitute exceptions, but essentially you get that one free transfer to account for, hey, I went to a school and it turns out the coaches are jerks and liars who kind of swindled me into coming and I want a new place. Or even in a not so adversarial fashion, I came here and it just wasn't what I was expecting. Not anybody's fault. It's just, it happens.
I committed to a school across the country. I'm getting kind of homesick. Would rather be closer to family.
Yeah, playing opportunity is what I want. Maybe I changed my mind on what I want to go to school for and the school doesn't have it. A number of things that can be perfectly understandable and nobody's fault that they have to be blamed for and canceled over. So you'd get that opportunity. And then, heck, if you're a star true freshman, then I guess you can transfer for whatever reason anyway. Maybe you want to make some big bucks. But I think ultimately you got to move toward actual professional style league because, again, trying to reel back and say, okay, only one transfer or only this. Like, we can't go back.
Yeah, the challenge is with 134 schools, they're not all created equal. And not even among the Power 4 schools are they created equal.
Yeah. But I don't even think that's a problem. Like, because what if you had a professional league that, if you had a professional league, like if you just turn college sports into a professional league right now, you have a bunch of teams that have tons of money and a bunch that don't. Is that all that different from Major League Baseball? Is that all that different from the world soccer landscape?
No.
Where the Barcelonas have billions and Real Salt Lake has hundreds of thousands or millions?
That's true.
Like, leagues have that kind of disparity. Massive disparities. Like, can you name a team in the Spanish La Liga other than Barcelona, Real Madrid, and I think there's another, like, there's a third thing I kind of know, but like, they're all poor. You don't know who they are, but they all compete, and everyone likes it.
That's true. All right, a lot more to discuss here on the Full Court Press. Love to hear from you as well. Very busy, interesting night in the Mountain West and into the weekend. We'll update you on all that and the NFL playoffs.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. The Chiefs did not dominate the 2024 regular season like you would expect from a team that went 15-2. The team finished middle of the pack in points per game. They were one of only 2 teams to make the playoffs with a losing record against the spread. But the Chiefs dynasty has taught us this. It's the regular season often serves as a prelude to postseason brilliance. Kansas City star tight end Travis Kelce exemplifies this. After 7 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, Kelce's regular season numbers dipped in back-to-back years. But when the playoffs roll around, so does he. And after what some considered a disappointing regular season, Kelce elevated his game, averaging nearly 90 yards per contest last year en route to a Super Bowl title. So while the Chiefs may appear to be more vulnerable than ever before, the Chiefs' recent postseason success may suggest the team's just getting started. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.